Welcome to the new book releases for the week of January 27th. The last week of January is bringing us several sequels or conclusion books in series, so it's quite a big packed week. I feel like normally the last week of the month, though, is smaller. I don't know. It's just, yeah. I'm Morgan. If this is your first time here, I'll have timestamps in between the genres. That way you can pick whichever one's your favorite to check out. Starting us off for the week is our only YA book. This is the second one in the Forging Silver into Stars series duology. Not quite sure on that yet. Carving Shadows into Gold by Bridget Kimmerer. Dangerous magic, fateful choices, and broken promises. This one is following three characters. 19-year-old Tycho, who's the king's courier, and the first book started when he arrived in the remote village of Briarlock, hoping to escape the demands of his new life at the royal court where magic reigns for the first time in ages. After years of cruelty in his father's forge, Jax never dared dream of a better life until a magic-wielding young lord shows him an enticing alternative. Jax's best friend, Kaylin, doesn't trust anyone, especially not a handsome stranger with magic who killed her parents years ago. He didn't kill it. Magic killed it. There's a little paw under the door. The first book, Forging Silver into Stars, was quite interesting, and while this is set in the same world and after the events of the trilogy A Curse So Dark and Lonely, I don't think that's the name of the trilogy, but that's the first book in it, and I don't know. I think it's kind of like the Mortal Instruments world series in that you could start with either series first and be okay. It would just like some names and events might be a little confusing if you start with Forging Silver into Stars, but it reads as its own story. Moving into fantasy, we start with the conclusion to the Five Penalties trilogy, The Teeth of Dawn by Marina Lassiter. The first book was The Helm of Midnight, and it says, in a daring and deadly heist, thieves have made away with an artifact of terrible power, the death mask of Louis Charbon. Made by master craftsman, it is imbued with the spirit of a monster from history, a serial murderer who terrorized the city with a series of gruesome murders. I don't know why I said that. And it leads to a rebellion and the struggles to tear the mask off the illusions and enchantments of a society shrouded in layers of mystery. Because for some reason we make death shrouds and actually imbue people's souls into it. And in the first book, this mask is stolen, and it kind of starts leading to murders similar to what had happened previously as the mask is taken over a new person. Next up, though, we have The Outcast Mage by Annabelle Campbell. In the glass city of Amoria, magic is everything, and Nalia, a student at the city's legendary academy, is running out of time to prove she can control her powers. If she fails, she'll be forced into exile, relegated to a life of persecution with the other magicless hollows, or worse, be consumed by her own power. When a tragic incident further threatens her place at the academy, Nalia is saved by Helios Akana, the most powerful living mage. Finding Nalia a kindred spirit, Helios takes his position at the academy on teaching her to harness her abilities. Stakes his position at the academy on teaching her to harness her abilities. There's very different meanings there, Morgan. But Helios has many enemies, and they would love nothing more than to see Nalia fall. Trapped in the deadly schemes of Amoria's elite, Nalia must dig deep to discover the truth of her powers, or watch the city she loves descend into civil war. Our next one up is a gothic, tinged horror fantasy fiction thing. At the Bottom of the Garden by Camilla Bruce. Clara Woods is a killer, and perfectly fine with it too. So what if she takes a couple of lives to make her own a little bit better? At the bottom of her garden is a flower bed, long overgrown, where her late husband rests in peace. Or so she always thought. Then the girls arrive. Lily and Violet are her nieces, recently orphaned after their affluent parents died on an ill-fated anniversary trip. Violet can see the dead men at the bottom of the garden. She can see all of Clara's ghosts and call them back into existence. Soon Clara is plagued by her victims and at war with the gifted girls in her care. Lily and Violet have become a liability, and they know far more than they should. So it's very different sounding. Very, very different sounding and intriguing. Though me and gothic fiction don't always go together very well, so I don't know. Moving into our romanticities of the week, The Night is Defying by Chloe C. Penaranda. This is the second in the Nightfall trilogy. Vicious nightmares need peaceful dreams. The first book started with Estrella is a prisoner of her own mind, the past sliding from her grasp like water, but she knows she must escape the tyrannical king who holds her captive and find her clouded memories once again. The quest leads her to the Libertatum? a succession of trials hosted by the king in which 5 human lands compete for a cycle of safety from the vampires seeking blood, claiming souls, and savaging after dark. And somehow, though, the Libertatum and rebellion, and she finds that it might not be worth it, or it might not be what she thought. Yes, and thus leading us into what's happening in book 2. Up next, we have Gate to Kagashima by Poppy Kuriki. While in Japan researching her family's history, a vicious typhoon sends Isla Mackenzie 128 years back in time, to the dawn of the Satsuma Rebellion. There she meets her ancestors and a charismatic samurai, Ki, with whom she unexpectedly finds romance. But unlike her beloved, Isla knows about the looming samurai rebellion and Kai's fate, should she attempt to change history or somehow make her way back to the life she'd had before. Super strong Outlander vibes from the description. Definitely was an inspiration. The 2 titles mentioned, though, it's for fans of, is The Hurricane Wars and The Time Traveler's Wife. Also, it has the main love interest name spelled differently in each of these paragraphs. One is K-E-I, and the other one is K-A-I. So I don't know. Then we have the second one in the Bloodfolk series, that's The Blood Crown by Cade Cunningham. A dark omen, an ominous gift, a chance encounter with a handsome stranger that no one else remembers. Aurelia's life has always been dictated by court politics and the watchful eye of nobility, but the glamour of court life is an ever-changing noose, ever-tightening noose, one that will never allow her to marry the man she loves or question the decisions that are made for her future. And something happens within the court, or her father, and she finds secret books in the library. I do believe this one is self-published, though, that both of the books have been self-published. Moving into more contemporary romance, with the first one being sci-fi tinted. Here Beside the Rising Tide by Emily Jane. At age 10, Jenny Farrow and her best friend Timmy Caruso enjoy a glorious summer on the Pearl Island filled with fireworks, beach days, and carnival rides, not to mention that strange sea creature they rescue from a tide pool. Then, one late summer day, Timmy disappears. 30 years later, Jenny, now Jen Lenaro, best-selling author of Philippa Bay action romance series, is desperate to escape the fatigue of her career and her soon-to-be ex-husband. With her Pokemon-obsessed kids in tow, Jen rents a summer house on Pearl Island, but shortly after she arrives, a boy emerges from the nighttime sea. His name, he says, is Timmy Caruso. He's 10 years old, and he's on a mission to save the world, and he needs her help. So it sounds amusing and adorable. This is the same author that wrote As on TV as It Is on Earth, I think was the name of it. From there, we move to another cozy romance one, Out of the Woods by Hannah Bonham Young. High school sweethearts Sarah and Caleb Linwood have always been a sure thing. For the past 17 years, they have had each other's backs through all of life's ups and downs. But Sarah has begun to wonder, who is she without her other half? Are they truly the same people they were when they got married at 19? Are they supposed to be? In a desperate attempt to fix what they fear is breaking, Sarah and Caleb make the spontaneous decision to get out of their comfort zones and join a grueling hiking trip intended to guide couples through rough patches. What follows is a life-affirming comedy of errors, and 2 nature-averse people fight their way out of the woods in order to find their way back to their roots. All of those words were so simple, and I don't know why I can't speak or say them correctly. I really don't. It's not like they're fantasy names and weird things. No. Fairly simple, normal, everyday words there. Moving on into our fiction of the week, Blob by Maggie Su. The daughter of a Taiwanese father and a white mother, Vi Liu has never quite fit into her Midwestern college town. Aimless after getting dumped by her boyfriend and dropping out of college, Vi works at the front desk of a hotel where she greets guests, refills cucumber water samovers, and tries to evade her bubbly blonde coworker Rachel. Little does Vi know her life is about to be permanently transformed when she agrees to a night out with Rachel. In the alley outside the bar, Vi discovers a strange blob, a small living creature with beady black eyes. In a moment of concern and drunken desperation, she takes it home. But the blob is no ordinary pet. Becoming increasingly sentient, it begins to grow, shapeshift, and obey Vi's commands. As the entity continues to change, Vi is struck with the daring idea. She'll mold the creature into her ideal partner, feeding it a stream of sweet breakfast cereals and American pop culture. The creature grows into a movie star handsome white man. But when Vi's desire to be loved unconditionally threatens to spiral out of control, she is forced to confront her lonely childhood, her aloof ex-boyfriend, and the racial and the racial marginalization that has defined her relationships, a journey of self-discovery that teaches her it's impossible to control those you love. We made it mostly through that with hardly any errors, I think. We end the week on some thrillers. First book up is Head Cases by John McCone. FBI agent Gardner Camden is an analytical genius with an affinity for puzzles. He also has a blind spot on the human side of investigations, a blindness that sometimes even includes people in his own life, like his beloved 7-year-old daughter, Camilla. Gardner and his squad of brilliant yet quirky agents make up the Patterns and Recognition Unit, or PAR, the FBI's hidden edge, brought in for cases no one else can solve. When DNA links a murder victim to a serial killer long presumed dead, the team springs into action. A second victim establishes a pattern, and the murderer begins leaving a trail of clues and riddles, especially for Gardner. And while the PAR team is usually relegated to working cold cases from behind a desk, the investigation puts them on the road and into the public eye, following in the footsteps of a killer. And while on the trail, the killer starts leaving messages specifically about the unit's family members and loved ones. So he's playing with them. It's quite interesting description. We move on to The Crash by Frida McFadden. Tegan is 8 months pregnant, alone, and desperately wants to put her crumbling life in the rearview mirror. So she hits the road, planning to stay with her brother until she can figure out her next move. But she doesn't realize she's heading straight into a blizzard. She never arrives at her destination. Stranded in rural Maine with a dead car and a broken ankle, Tegan wonders she's made a terrible mistake. Then a miracle occurs. She's rescued by a couple who offers her a room in their warm cabin until the snow clears. But something isn't right. Tegan believes she was waiting out the storm, but as time ticks by, she comes to realize she's in grave danger. The safe haven isn't what she thought it was, and staying here might have been her most deadly mistake yet. I don't know who leaves in the dead of winter and doesn't check, the weather, but also you probably shouldn't question people's decisions at 8 months pregnant. The rationalization of things is not always there. It's not always there. Those are all the ones I have for you on this week's list. There are, of course, many others coming out this week, as always. And if there's any that you know of that you want to let people know about because you think they're awesome sounding, feel free to drop them in the comments down below. I hope you're having an excellent day, finding something great to read. You'll subscribe if you like this video so you can come back for all the future ones. I'll see you in the next one.